Do you know that the most productive food source you'll ever grow isn't in a raised bed, isn't in a pot on your porch, and definitely isn't in those neat little rows you've been tilling every spring? What if it's been hanging on your fence this whole time, completely ignored, while you've been spending money on seeds every single year, replanting the same stuff, hoping this season is finally the one that works out? Here's the truth nobody in the gardening world wants to say out loud. Most of us garden like we're renting. We plant, we harvest, we rip everything out, and we start all over again, year after year after year. And we wonder why it feels exhausting, why it never quite feels worth it. But there's a different way to grow food, a way where you do the work once, maybe twice, and then the garden just keeps going, without you, long after you stopped thinking about it. That's what vines do. And not just any vines. The 9 I'm about to walk you through today are in a completely different category. These are plants that laugh at drought, shrug off pests, climb every fence you own, and come back every single season bigger and more generous than the year before. Some of them have been feeding entire civilizations for thousands of years. Some of them you can find at any nursery right now labeled as ornamental, sitting there with no one realizing what they actually are. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is about growing food that actually works in the real world, not the perfect world. Make sure you hit subscribe before we're done today because what I'm covering in this video is just the beginning. Now, let's get into it. 9 vines. Plant them once, eat for life. Let's go. Number 1, the Cucamelon. And listen, if you've never grown this before, I need you to pay close attention because this might be the single easiest food-producing vine on this entire planet. The Cucamelon, also called a mouse melon or Mexican sour gherkin, produces these tiny little fruits that look exactly like someone shrunk a watermelon down to the size of a grape. And when you bite into one, it tastes like a cucumber crossed with a lime, crisp, bright, and completely addictive. This plant is native to Central America and has been cultivated there since long before Europeans arrived on this continent. It is not a new discovery, it's a rediscovery. And once you grow it, you'll never understand why it ever disappeared from North American gardens in the first place. Start your seeds indoors 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. Once your soil is warmed up, get them outside and give them something to climb. A fence, a trellis, some twine, it genuinely doesn't matter. The vines stretch out to 10 or 12 feet, and they need almost no attention after that. No spraying, no babying, no fighting off bugs because almost no insects bother this plant. The disease resistance is exceptional. This is genuinely one of those rare plants where you put it in the ground and then mostly just show up to harvest. And the harvest is not small. A single plant in good conditions will give you around 100 fruits per season. Think about that for a second. One plant, 100 fruits. A half pint of these at a farmer's market sells for $5 to $8. Your seed packet costs $2. But here's where it gets even better. At the end of the season, the Cucamelon develops an underground tuber, like a tiny storage root. If you're in zone 7 or warmer, leave it right where it is. Come spring, that tuber wakes up and sends out new vines earlier and faster than anything you planted from seed the year before. By year 3, this plant is practically a weed, a beautiful, delicious, completely edible weed that you never have to plant again. Number 2, Tromboncino squash. And if you've ever had a zucchini plant just completely die on you in the middle of summer, I need you to stay with me for this one because this vine is about to change everything. Tromboncino, also called Zucchetta rumpicante, is an Italian heirloom squash that belongs to the same family as butternut squash. And that botanical family detail is the whole game because the stem of a Cucurbita moschata squash is dense, it's woody, it is physically impossible for a squash vine borer, the moth larvae that tunnels into zucchini and kills it from the inside, to get through it. While your neighbor is watching their zucchini plants collapse in August and wondering what went wrong, your Tromboncino is still climbing, still producing, still thriving. 0 borer damage. The vine grows aggressively. We're talking 30 to 40 feet in a single season, and it trains beautifully up a fence or trellis, hanging its fruit in the air where they stretch out into this long, curved trumpet shape.
Pick them young and you've got something better than any zucchini you've ever bought from a grocery store. Firmer texture, a little sweeter, slightly nutty. Leave them on the vine longer and that skin hardens into a genuine winter squash with excellent storage. Same plant, two completely different vegetables depending on when you decide to harvest. That kind of flexibility is rare and it is valuable.
One more thing. You will never find Tromboncino in a grocery store. The irregular shape makes it impossible to standardize for retail shelves. The only way to eat this squash is to know someone who grows it or grow it yourself. That alone makes it worth every inch of fence space you give it. Number 3. Malabar spinach. And if hot summers have destroyed every leafy green you've ever tried to grow, this vine is the answer you've been looking for. Regular spinach is a cool weather crop. It bolts in heat, turns bitter, goes to seed, and essentially gives up on you right around the time summer gets serious. Malabar spinach does the exact opposite. This tropical climbing vine absolutely loves heat and humidity. It thrives in full sun through the hottest weeks of the year and keeps producing until frost shuts it down. The leaves are dark green, heart-shaped, and they taste similar to spinach, peppery, slightly earthy, but they hold their texture in cooked dishes far better than true spinach ever does. You can harvest in about 70 days, and the key to getting the most out of it is to never stop harvesting. Malabar spinach is cut and come again. Pick the leaves and the growing tips regularly and the plant responds by branching out and pushing even more growth. The more you take, the more it gives you. Research from the University of Florida found that a 10 square meter bed can yield 40 kilograms of leaves over a single growing season. One vine on a trellis can keep a family in leafy greens through the entire summer, the exact window when nothing else in your garden will produce them. It doesn't survive frost in temperate zones, but it self-seeds in warm climates, and seeds are cheap everywhere. Start at once, save a few seeds at the end of fall, and after that the cost of growing it is zero. Number 4. Scarlet runner bean. Now, most people who plant scarlet runner beans do it for the flowers, and honestly that's fair because the flowers are spectacular, vivid orange-red flames that hummingbirds simply cannot leave alone. But here's what most people walk right past. This vine gives you 3 completely different foods from a single plant, and it does it in 60 to 75 days. Pick the pods young and they eat like the best green beans you've ever had. Let the pods mature, and the seeds inside become plump shelling beans with a rich, nutty flavor unlike any common bean at the grocery store. Leave everything on the vine until fully dry, and you've got dried beans for long-term storage. One plant. 3 entirely different harvests depending entirely on when you decide to pick. And scarlet runners fix nitrogen. Their root systems house bacteria that pull nitrogen straight from the air and lock it into your soil. Plant them, harvest all season, and when it's over, chop the spent vines and compost them. The ground underneath is more fertile than when you started. You didn't just grow food, you improved your garden in the process. The roots are perennial in zone 7 and warmer. The vine dies back when frost hits, but the root wakes up in spring and sends out new growth without you doing a single thing. Even in colder zones, the seeds are large, cheap, and germinate like crazy. A packet costs under $3. The return on that investment is almost unfair. Number 5. Chayote. Okay, this is the vine on this list that genuinely makes my jaw drop every single time I think about what it produces. Because we're not talking about a productive plant, we're talking about something that should not be possible. Chayote is native to Central America and has been cultivated since the time of the Aztecs. Every single part of it is edible. The fruits, the young leaves and shoot tips, the seeds, and after a couple of years of establishment, the starchy tuberous roots underground. There is almost no plant on Earth with this level of total edibility. Now, pay attention to this number. A single fully established chayote vine produces between 80 and 100 pear-shaped fruits per season. That is not a typo. That is not an exaggeration. That is documented by the University of Florida Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. One vine. Given a sturdy trellis and enough space, it can cover over 30 feet and produce 100 fruits between late summer and the first frost. Here's something else that makes chayote completely unique. You don't plant a seed, you plant the whole fruit.
Buy a single chayote from a grocery store for under $1, set it at a slight angle in the soil with the sprouting end just barely visible, and the vine does the rest. Your investment is one piece of produce. First season yields are modest, be honest with yourself about that. The plant is building its root system and that takes time. But by year 2, you will not know what to do with the fruit. By year 3, a single plant can feed a household. In frost-free zones, it's a true perennial that returns indefinitely. In colder climates, start it indoors in late winter to give it the longest possible growing window. And while you're waiting for the fruits, harvest the young shoots all season long. They eat exactly like asparagus, and they are genuinely delicious.
Number 6. Hyacinth bean. And I want to warn you before I even describe this plant. The first time you see it growing on a fence, you will stop mid-conversation and stare. Dark green foliage, purple-tinted stems, deep violet flowers, and seed pods of such a vivid, glossy purple that people genuinely question whether they're real. Hyacinth bean, Lablab purpureus, has been cultivated across Africa and Asia for over 4,000 years. It is one of the oldest cultivated plants in human history, and it grows with an explosive energy that you have to see to believe. 10 to 15 feet in a single season, from seed, with minimal care, maturing in 60 to 90 days. Young leaves are eaten as greens, immature pods are harvested like green beans. Mature seeds, dried and stored, are high in protein and have been a staple crop in Indian cuisine for centuries under the name sem. Now here's the one thing I need you to know before you cook with mature, dried hyacinth beans, and this is important. Mature dried seeds contain cyanogenic glycosides that need to be broken down through cooking. This sounds alarming, but it isn't. A long boil with water changes is exactly how every traditional culture that has eaten this plant for thousands of years has always prepared it. Cook them properly, and they are nutritious, completely safe, and genuinely delicious. Every traditional recipe accounts for this. Plant hyacinth beans in full sun on any vertical surface. Water once a week once they're established. Fix your nitrogen. Tolerate heat and drought and poor soil that would stress most other crops. And then stand back. This is a good moment to pause. If this is the kind of content you actually want in your feed, real plants, real yields, real information that most gardening channels skip entirely, subscribe right now. One video a week, no filler, just plants and systems that actually produce food in the real world. Number 7, American groundnut vine. And I'll be honest with you, this one hits differently for me, because this is the most historically significant plant on this entire list, and almost no one in North America plants it. Apius americana, called hopnus, groundnut, or Indian potato, is a native North American perennial vine. It produces edible tubers underground and edible bean pods above ground. It has been growing on this continent since long before any of us were here. The tubers are nutty, starchy, protein-rich, and deeply satisfying. Indigenous peoples across the entire eastern half of North America cultivated and depended on this plant for thousands of years. When early colonial settlements faced starvation, and several of them did, groundnut tubers kept people alive through multiple winters. That is documented colonial history, not legend, not.
The vine grows 3 to 6 feet, produces fragrant pinkish-purple flowers, and develops its tubers underground in a beads-on-a-string formation along shallow runners. Harvest in autumn by gently working through the soil. The plant returns the following year without replanting. It fixes nitrogen, it grows in partial shade where most food crops won't even try, it thrives in moist soils, it returns food from 2 directions, beans above the ground, tubers below, indefinitely once it's established. The reason almost no one grows it today is heartbreaking when you think about it. When European agriculture took over this continent, centuries of indigenous food knowledge went with it. The groundnut vine is one of the most productive, lowest-maintenance perennial food plants native to North America, and it has been almost completely forgotten. Find tubers or seeds from specialty native plant nurseries. Plant them once. They return for the rest of your life. Number 8. Passionflower, specifically Passiflora incarnata, called maypop, which is the native North American passionflower and is winter hardy all the way down to zone 5. Now I need to say this clearly because it genuinely surprises people. This plant produces an edible fruit, a real, delicious, tropical-tasting fruit that grows wild across the southeastern United States, and yet most people who live right next to it have never tasted it from their own yard. The fruit ripens in late summer to early fall. It's roughly egg-sized with a yellow-green exterior, and when you cut it open, the inside is a sweet, tangy, tropical pulp that tastes like guava crossed with citrus. You cannot buy this at any grocery store in North America. The only way to eat it is to grow it yourself or know someone who does. The vine returns reliably every spring. It spreads by root runners in good conditions and becomes more productive each season. The flowers are among the most structurally complex produced by any native North American plant, architectural works of art that attract specialist pollinators your entire garden benefits from. The leaves and flowers are edible and have been brewed as a calming herbal tea for centuries. The flavonoids in the plant have documented mild calming properties, and traditional herbal medicine across multiple cultures recognized this long before any research confirmed it. Source a small plant from a native plant nursery. Give it a fence in zones 5 through 9, and it comes back every year, spreading a little wider, getting a little more productive, asking almost nothing from you.
Number 9. Akebia. And this last one might be the most quietly impressive plant on this entire list, because right now at garden centers across North America, Akebia is being sold as an ornamental vine called chocolate vine, and almost no one buying it has any idea that the fruit is edible. The elongated purple-gray pods ripen in early fall. When they're ready, they split open on their own and reveal a sweet, translucent white pulp wrapped around black seeds. The flavor is delicate, mild, and has a faint, almost vanilla-like quality to it. In Japan, where Akebia has been cultivated and treasured for centuries, the fruit is considered a seasonal delicacy and sold at a genuine premium. The young shoots are eaten as a cooked vegetable in early spring. The outer skin of the fruit is stuffed and cooked in traditional Japanese cuisine. 3 separate foods from one plant that gardeners in North America walk right past at the nursery without a second look. The vine grows 15 to 30 feet in a single season once it's established. It tolerates partial shade better than almost any other fruiting vine, which makes it perfect for north-facing fences, the shady side of your house, the spots where everything else you've tried has failed. It's hardy down to zone 4. It produces small, fragrant, reddish-purple flowers in early spring that are among the first food plant flowers to open in the garden each year. I'll be honest with you about timing. Akebia typically gives you its first meaningful fruit crop in year 2 or 3. In year 1, you get fast, vigorous coverage and those early flowers, but the fruit, when it comes, is absolutely worth the wait. And at $8 to $15 at any garden center, sold as an ornamental with zero mention of what it actually produces, it is one of the most undervalued plants you can bring home from a nursery. Here's what connects every single vine on this list, and I want you to really sit with this for a second. Not one of these plants needs to be replanted every year. Not one of them competes with your existing garden beds for ground space. Every single one of them takes something you already own, a fence line, a deck railing, an old trellis, a dead tree trunk standing in the corner of your yard, and turns it into a permanent food structure. The annual vegetable bed resets every year. You start over. You replant. You reinvest your time and money and energy. And then you do it again. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's never truly self-sustaining. A vine, once established, is different. It is a living investment. It is a food structure that asks less of you in year 5 than it did in year 1. It is the difference between a garden that constantly needs you and a garden that feeds you, whether you're paying attention or not. That distinction is everything. This isn't just about saving money on groceries, though you absolutely will. It isn't just about growing food that doesn't exist in any grocery store, though several of these vines will give you exactly that. It's about building something that lasts, something that outlasts a season, outlasts a bad year, outlasts your own attention span, something that just keeps going. If you're ready to start, here's exactly how I do it. Start with the Cucamelon if you want something in your hands this summer. It's fast, it's foolproof, and the results will genuinely make you excited to keep going. Start with a Tromboncino if squash vine borers have beaten you before and you're done losing that fight. Start with a Scarlet runner bean if you want 3 different harvests from a seed packet that costs less than a cup of coffee.
Start with the American groundnut vine if you want to plant something that will still be feeding people long after you're gone. Pick one vine, find one fence. That is the entire barrier to entry. That's all you need. This garden doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be planted. Go do that.